Growing up in a humble Boston family, I never planned to hide my achievements. Humility and determination were virtues I learned early on, more important than social status. My father, a mechanic, would come home with grease-covered hands and a tired smile, while my mother worked relentless nursing shifts to fund my college education. "Emily," she'd often say, "success is not about what you possess, it's about who you are." Her words echoed in my mind. By age 23, I had started a consulting company in my garage, and 2 years later, it evolved into mTech Solutions, valued at over $200 million. Despite my success, I preferred staying behind the scenes. One day, at a local coffee shop, I met Michael. I was deeply engrossed in reviewing contracts in my casual jeans and sweater when he accidentally spilled my coffee. "Oh no, I'm terribly sorry," he stammered, trying to rescue my documents. Despite the fact that they were vital acquisition agreements worth millions, I found his genuine panic charming. "It's fine," I assured him with a laugh. "Let me make it up to you," he insisted, introducing himself as Michael. "I'm Emily," I replied with a smile. "Sure, I'll take you up on that coffee." That coffee led to dinner, and dinner eventually blossomed into a relationship. Michael was distinct from anyone I'd known before, kind, grounded, and a high school teacher who truly loved his job. He never inquired about my wealth, mainly because he was unaware of it. I told him I worked as an executive assistant at mTech Solutions. While it wasn't entirely untrue, as I did handle administrative tasks, I was the owner, not an assistant. I wanted to be loved for my true self, not for my material possessions. Everything seemed perfect until I met Michael's mother, Victoria. Victoria Patterson was the epitome of social ambition. Her house was decorated with knockoff designer items, and her conversations revolved around fictitious connections to the elite. She disapproved of me from the start. "A secretary," she remarked during our first dinner, her tone laced with judgment. "Michael, darling, wasn't there a surgeon's daughter I introduced you to?" "Mom," Michael responded, clearly irritated, but she persisted. "I just think, given our family status, you should aim higher. The Pattersons have always married into good families." The irony was clear to me. Michael had already told me the truth about their middle-class lifestyle, maintained by credit card debt and appearances. "I like my job," I replied plainly. "It's fulfilling." Victoria sniffed dismissively. "Well, someone has to do those things, I suppose," she said with cutting passive aggression that became a norm at family events. On Christmas, while others received thoughtful gifts, I was given a simple office planner. "For keeping your boss's schedule," she added with a smirk. Michael would often apologize in private, but he never directly challenged her behavior. I understood that family dynamics can be complex. Everything changed with one announcement one Sunday evening. Victoria burst into the room, waving a newspaper. "mTech Solutions is seeking a new CEO. This is my chance," she declared. I nearly choked on my wine. While we were indeed looking for a CEO, the process was highly selective. "You're applying?" Michael asked incredulously. Of course, she was visibly taken aback. After 2 decades in MLE management, she had her eyes set on the big leagues now, she proudly stated. Turning towards me, "Emily," she casually asked, "could you put in a good word for me, even though I suspect your endorsement won't hold much sway?" I maintained a straight face and replied, "I'll see what I can do." "Don't bother," she waved dismissively. "I've already pulled strings. The board will definitely be impressed by my credentials." She wasn't aware that I was on the board. The subsequent week, Victoria arrived at mTech Solutions for her interview, donning an extravagant outfit. I observed discreetly from my office as she loudly boasted about her qualifications in the lobby. "Mrs. Patterson, the board is ready for you," my assistant informed her. Victoria straightened her posture and confidently marched into the conference room, only to freeze when she noticed me sitting at the head of the table, with board members by my side. "Emily," she stammered, "what are you doing here?" "Running my company," I replied smoothly. "Please have a seat." Her face turned pale as recognition dawned on her. This can't be." "But it is," a board member confirmed. Walker is our founder and major shareholder." Victoria's meticulously crafted facade began to crumble. She staggered into a chair as I opened her application file, saying, "Let's discuss your qualifications." Her resume was filled with exaggerations, and I interrogated each claim. Her fabricated achievements and supposed connections unraveled quickly. "I think we're finished here," I concluded. "Your application is disqualified due to misrepresentation." "You can't do this," she cried. "This is personal." "No, it's professional," I retorted. "But since you brought up personal matters, yes, I've put up with your insults and condescension for months. This isn't revenge, Victoria, it's accountability." She stormed out, muttering threats about revealing the truth to Michael. "Go ahead," I mused, already reaching for my phone. Michael deserved to know the truth. "Mom just called me crying," Michael said as he entered my office, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. "She said you're her boss? Emily, what's happening?" I gestured for him to sit and took a deep breath. "Michael, there's a great deal I need to explain. I wasn't entirely truthful about my identity. I didn't want to complicate things between us, but now it's unavoidable. Can I show you something?" Moments later, Michael stood by the windows in my office, taking in the stunning city view and the nameplate on my desk, Emily Walker, founder and CEO. He turned to the wall of awards and news features about my company, mTech Solutions. "So, you're not a secretary," he remarked, his voice controlled. "No, I'm not," I confessed, standing beside him. "I founded mTech when I was 23, the very company your mom ridiculed me for working at. I built it from the ground up." He looked at me, pain flashing in his eyes. "Why hide this? Why lie?" "I wanted someone to see me, not my bank account," I explained. "Do you have any idea how many people try to get close to me because of my wealth or status? I wanted to experience love for who I truly am." Michael let out a sigh, his features softening. "I understand what you mean. I didn't want to play by her rules, proving her obsession with status correct, that wealth is what measures someone's worth." I replied, "You allowed my mother to treat you terribly, and this could have been stopped months ago. What good would have come from it?" Michael ran a hand through his hair. "You're right. I should have stood up for you. I failed you in that regard." Just then, the office door flew open, and in stormed Victoria, dragging her husband, George, behind her. Her face was flushed with anger. "There she is, the deceiver, the manipulator," she yelled. George, the ever-quiet observer, stepped forward. "Emily, this seems unprofessional, using your position against Victoria over personal matters." I interjected, pressing a button to play Victoria's hesitant responses over the speaker. "This wasn't about personal issues," I stated. "Your wife lied on her application and misrepresented her credentials." The board's decision was fact-based. Victoria's face contorted with fury. "You think you've won? Just wait until everyone finds out." The so-called brilliant CEO, who posed as a secretary to infiltrate our family. "Mom, stop," Michael's voice boomed, silencing the room. "Do you hear yourself? You're embarrassing all of us." "Embarrassing? She's the liar," Victoria retorted. "No," Michael replied sternly. "Emily was dishonest about her job. You've lied about everything else, our family status, your connections, your achievements. It's all been a charade, and I'm done supporting it." Victoria's mouth fell open as George put a hand on her shoulder. "Let's go, Victoria," he murmured. "This has gone too far." "This isn't over," she hissed as they exited. "You'll regret this, both of you." As the door shut behind them, silence filled the office. Michael looked at me, his expression weary but determined. "I'm sorry for everything my family's put you through," he said, "but I need to know, where do we go from here?" Before I could reply, my assistant buzzed in. "Ms. Walker, sorry to interrupt, but Mrs. Patterson is causing a scene in the lobby. Security wants to know what to do." Michael and I exchanged a glance. "We'll handle it together," he said. I pressed the intercom, "Send security footage to my laptop, and stand by. Intervene only if she disrupts operations." On screen, we watched Victoria pacing, stopping employees to rant about me. Most ignored her, some rolled their eyes, but then she brandished her phone. "She's stealing clients. Victoria shouted, waving it. I have proof. My blood ran cold. Those documents are confidential. How did she get them? Michael's face turned pale. She works in middle management at Patterson. She must have accessed the files. I was already dialing. Mr. Patterson? This is Emily Walker. Your employee, Victoria Patterson, is in my lobby, threatening to disclose secure client information. Yes, I'll wait. Victoria's voice blared through the feed. I'll destroy her. She's been taking our top clients. A sharp voice interrupted the screen's chaos. Victoria Patterson, a poised woman in a suit approached, flanked by security. I'm Susan Chen, legal counsel for Patterson Insurance, announced Susan Chen, her voice unwavering in the face of the two men present. Victoria St. reeled back, panic etched on her face, as Susan declared, You are hereby suspended due to an investigation into your breach of a non-disclosure agreement and attempted corporate espionage. Her words were met with incredulity from Victoria, who stammered, No, you don't understand. Maintaining her cold demeanor, Susan replied, On the contrary, we understand completely. Your access to sensitive files has been tracked for several weeks, and today's incident only confirmed our suspicions. Michael stood there, silently observing as his mother was led away, her cries of protest gradually fading. Turning to me, he said, Emily, I had no idea she was involved in this. I replied gently, It's not your fault, but we must confront this issue openly with both our families and ourselves, Michael. Security personnel then escorted a bewildered Victoria out of the premises, as Michael turned back to me with a concerned expression. Did you know about her professional conduct? He inquired. I learned during the merger discussions. I confessed, and intended to assist her in finding a more suitable position. It's one of the reasons I concealed my identity, to comprehend the situation thoroughly before taking actions that would affect your family. Mr. Patterson, standing nearby, nodded with a faint smile. It's your consideration for others, Emily, that convinced me the merger was right, he remarked. He straightened, adding, Victoria's legal matters will be handled with care for Michael's sake. Once they departed, silence enveloped the office. Michael, engrossed in his thoughts, sat across from me. At last he spoke. I need time to process this, he admitted. Take as much time as you need, I replied, maintaining a composed voice. As he paused at the door, he turned back. For what it's worth, I fell in love with Emily, the secretary. Knowing you're Emily, the CEO, doesn't change that. It simply means there's more to learn about you. After he left, I continued at my desk, gazing at the city lights as night descended. My phone vibrated with a message from George, Michael's father. Victoria is home, devastated. She is aware of what she has lost. When you're ready, we need to converse. Families shouldn't end like this. In the subsequent week, I immersed myself in my work, allowing Michael's family the respite they required. Meanwhile, the media latched onto Victoria's public outburst. The corporate espionage incident involving merging companies was too salacious to ignore. Fortunately, both corporate PR teams kept the uproar contained. Late one evening, as I reviewed merger documents, my assistant informed me, Miss Walker, the Patterson family wishes to see you. They entered collectively, George leading with a composed authority, followed by Michael, his face inscrutable, and Victoria, whose usual self-assurance had been replaced by vulnerability. She wore simple business attire, a stark contrast to her typical designer ensembles. George started, Emily, we need to have a conversation. Victoria stepped forward, her hands wringing nervously. I've been in intensive therapy this past week. Losing the promotion shattered me. Everything I built, my identity, my significance, my connections, all collapsed. You try to hold on by seizing more, I murmured. Victoria nodded, tears welling in her eyes. When I saw the post from the CEO, it was a moment of realization. I had convinced myself that I deserved the recognition and accolades, thinking others were holding me back. Discovering the truth about the situation was devastating, leaving me with nothing. Mom, Michael said softly, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder, there's more you need to share. Victoria inhaled deeply and admitted her long-standing struggles with shopping addiction and the creation of elaborate stories about their family's social standing. It all began a decade ago when George's business faced difficulties. Rather than confronting the truth, she crafted a fictitious world where everything seemed perfect. George, his voice filled with regret, confessed his role in enabling these delusions. I believed that maintaining appearances would help us, but it only worsened the situation. Inquiring about the company's merger, I confirmed its advance despite Victoria's prior actions affecting both organizations. Her past doesn't overshadow her 2 decades of service, I explained. The merger includes a retirement package available for her, if she desires. Victoria was taken aback. After everything, I believe everyone deserves a second chance, I assured her. However, I stated the conditions: continuous therapy, collaborating with HR on a transition plan, and, most importantly, being truthful with herself and others. Victoria's walls crumbled as she sincerely apologized to Emily for her past behavior and words. Michelle, standing beside me, reassured everyone. We've all learned something, he noted. Mom about truthfulness, Dad about allowing certain behaviors, and me about standing firm on important issues. And Emily, I concluded, about the importance of truthfulness in relationships. 2 months went by, during which Victoria quietly retired. The merger went off without a hitch, and she found meaning in volunteering at a financial literacy program, helping others avoid her past errors. At her wedding the following spring, she delivered a heartfelt speech, emphasizing that a year ago, she placed importance on status and appearances. However, her daughter-in-law showed her that real value lies in one's treatment of others. Emily, thank you for giving our family a second chance, not due to your CEO status, but because of your compassionate nature. Under the table, Michael squeezed my hand, signaling that we had rebuilt our relationship anew, without past deceptions and falsehoods. Looking around, I saw our merged families united, George in animated conversation with my father about business, Victoria aiding my mother with flower arrangements, and our employees mingling with relatives. True success, I realized, was meaningless without loved ones to share it with. Happy? Michael inquired. Very, I replied, though I did miss the secretary desk from time to time. He chuckled, teasing about the assistant's maternity leave. Don't tempt me, I retorted, playfully suggesting I might return undercover. Victoria overheard and joined the laughter, this time truly liberated from pretense, having found peace within herself. As the celebration unfolded, I reflected on the accidental coffee spill that led us here, proving that life's greatest blessings often come disguised as chaos. The people surrounding me confirmed that success wasn't quantified by monetary or societal standings, but by second chances, honest revelations, and the bravery to be one's genuine self.